Deconverted man here. Apologists have a handful of tricks that they use over and over again. No matter which apologist it is, it's the same thing. And so I find myself repeating the same points made and trying to make it fun for the audience. Learn something new this time. Challenge my own thinking in some way, shape, or form. I don't know that I'm going to be able to do that this time, but I'm going to give it a shot. Also, green shirt. So if you want to make fun of me, you can green screen this shirt really easily and do fun things with that. Anyways, so atheists can't answer this evidence for God, which isn't actually evidence, but it's actually an argument, and it's actually been debunked several times, including by myself. But, you know, it's all he's got. So we're actually starting in on this particular video of his at time index 157 because he doesn't really say much of anything useful or necessary for us in those first few moments there. So he's finally gotten to the core of what he's going to start. All the other stuff was pointless, kind of like my intro here. So here we go.
I are going to have today is about an argument for God that I think is probably one of the most effective. And once again, atheists just simply can't answer this. They don't have a good rebuttal to this. This argument for God is called the cosmological argument. Now, I'm mainly going to be going over what theologians and apologists have called the Kalam cosmological argument, and you'll see it laid out here. There are different branches of the cosmological argument, but they all essentially say, in a roundabout way, the same thing. But before I...
So, hey, there was somebody in the comments section that said that they were a Catholic. But their name was Mitchell Kulai 5149. And, you know, they gave a pretty decent rebuttal to him in that, you know, this argument doesn't really work. There's different types of cosmological models, and recommended some book that I don't care about. But I was like, hey, I love to see it. Christians, Catholics telling each other, hey, you're doing bad job. We need more of that. And there's a book I know of called, what was it called? Why apologetics is bad or something. I did a video on it, and now my brain doesn't want to remember the book's name. And I thought, oh, I'm going to mention it, and then I failed to have it ready for you. So that's part of my amateur niche that happens sometimes live, and we're just going to pretend that didn't happen. Anyways, but yeah, atheists can't answer this. No, well, then you didn't really look, because I have a video of KCA that already goes over the Kalam. But update on that, and also from a video I already did on him, the Planck temperature just ruins the whole Kalam in full. Okay, so if the Kalam is to be taken even a little seriously, Big Bang cosmology has to be correct. And it might not be, surprise, surprise, although it is widely accepted. We think how broad that acceptance is actually has polls on it. And so it's not like it's the one. It's not as clear-cut as with the case for biological evolution. And if we're using that model, then as the universe gets smaller, it all eventually gets to this point where it's really, really hot. And this heat is called the Planck temperature. And that's the hottest that anything can be. And it's so hot that atoms cannot form yet. There are no atoms yet. There are no nuclei. They can't even be that yet. It's just too hot. So within that moment, however long that moment lasts, whether it's a millisecond or a fraction or a pittosecond or however short that moment is, where you can't have atoms, it's, I think, more than fair to say we can't do physics because there is no physics if there's nothing physical. And so the idea that we have of cause and effect based on our observations of our local reality simply does not and cannot apply to a realm where we can't even do proper physics, because we do not know if cause and effect works. We don't know anything about that sort of universe where everything is so hot that you can't even have atoms. We don't know. It's a giant firewall of, we don't know. We need some sophisticated math. We need a whole new model of something. Whatever it is, we don't have that yet. And that's not atheists that are doing that. That's cosmologists, scientists who may or may not be themselves atheists. Maybe they're Christian or Catholic or Muslim or whatever the belief they happen to be. And that's their job. That's not the job of an atheist unless they happen to be a cosmologist. Atheists do not offer any explanation for anything, period. That's not the atheist's job either. The constant, continual insistence by many apologetics that atheism owes an explanation is simply false. Atheism is not a worldview. It might be part of some other worldview, but in and of itself is not a worldview. It tells you the answer to the question, do you believe in God? If the answer is no, congratulations, you're an atheist. If the answer is yes, you're not an atheist. So that's it. That's all atheist is. But Tabor and other apologetics continually treat atheism as if it was a worldview or a religion that claims to know about the world that we have, claims to know the origins of the universe. I don't know. I don't know how the universe came to be or why, or even if the why makes any sense. I have no idea, don't know, and I'm not going to explain it to you because, well, I don't know. I mean, I can point you to science stuff and be like, I guess they know. I don't know. And you as the believer can point to those things and go, oh, God, 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 God. And I'm like, and where's your scientific paper? And then they say, well, wait, but God isn't, you can't prove God with science. No, well, at least not directly. You can get there indirectly, but you can't get there directly. And I go, oh, that's interesting. Why is that? And then they stop talking to me. There is not, as far as I'm aware, a sound argument for God. And soundness matters in informal and formal logic, in that you can have a valid argument. Who cares? What matters is, every premise true? Then the conclusion has to follow, and then you have a sound argument. And there's a handful of sound arguments around. But theists love trying to use the language of logic without, it seems to me, understanding informal logic. I don't know that they understand that or care to, because I don't know how you could understand informal logic and make these bad arguments unless you just don't care about logic. Kaiser William 1971 says, hello. Oh, hello. Anyway, so all that to say, we don't owe you an explanation of diddly squat.
even get into it, let me know down in the comment section, are you an atheist who can explain the origins of the universe effectively without borrowing from a theistic worldview?
No, I am not somebody that's going to explain anything to you. That's not my burden to do. I never claimed to be able to explain anything of that sort. So, yes, I'm an atheist. No, I cannot explain X. And it's not my burden to do so.
I'd love to hear your perspective on that, because once again, I just haven't heard it explained well enough. And if you're a Christian or anywhere in between, let me know if you learned anything from this video. I want to know if I'm making content that's actually helping people. My goal is to help people learn and promote healthy dialogue and conversation with these videos.
Hello to Robin that says hi. Hi, Robin. And no, his goal is, I don't know that he can say that that's his goal, but he has not responded to me. Maybe I have to email him, I guess, maybe to be noticed by him. But yeah, so he hasn't responded to the other videos I've done on him. And I poked him in the comment section, and it does appear he reads the comment section. So he hasn't talked to me, so I don't believe him that he wants dialogue. But it's also interesting. There's no follow-up. This video was done 3 months ago. There's no follow-up video to see like, hey, people responded and told me I was wrong about this, so I'm going to correct myself. This isn't actually the best argument. You know, even a Catholic person said that this wasn't a good argument. So I'm going to correct myself now and look into the matter. Oh, and I looked into it, and by the way, lots of atheists have already negated this argument. So yeah, it's not a good argument anymore, and I'm not going to use it. No, there's nothing like that on his channel. Not even a little. Not a hint that he actually cares what people have told him in updating his knowledge base. So I just don't buy it.
So if you've gained something, I'd really love to hear it, not just for the algorithm boosting my video, but also just so I know that I'm doing something right. Now, before we get into all the nerdy stuff, there's one specific law of nature that you and I have to unpack before we get into anything else, and that is the law of causality. The law of causality says that everything...
I don't know that there really is a law of causality, so citation, please. Wait, let's check it out. Does he have a citation in his description here? Nope. But he does link Frank Turk, because we know how wonderful Frank Turk is, that lying con man Frank Turk. This guy loves Frank Turk. I don't know why, but he really digs him. But is there actually a law of causality? I don't see any reason to think there is. So let's see. Let's see AI overview. Okay. Elden Ring wiki. That's a video game. That's philosopher's science, law of causality. Let's see. That's PhysicsNet. So that might be something. It's only been cited once, though. That's okay. So you have one scientific paper on it. Let's see. Apologetic Press. Let's see. Philosophy. I mean, maybe there's something in science. More apologetics. So, you know, just looking at Google here, which is, by the way, not my burden, but his burden to have done this already. I went to page 2 of Google, and all I'm seeing is one paper that has one citation, which isn't very good, that maybe suggests that the law of causality should be considered an actual law, and nothing but apologetic arguments and stuff from philosophy. So I don't believe that this is an actual scientific thing. And if you want to prove that it is, then cite some actual science that shows that it is. But he doesn't do that.
Thing in the observable universe has a cause. Now, the one exception, or so it seems the exception, to the law of causality is the origins of the universe.
And also quantum physics, because there might not be cause and effects in quantum physics itself. But, who cares? We're just going to ignore that because it's a counterexample. Also, the whole universe? Really? When did we explore that as humanity? I think we've explored what? Less than 1% of the universe? Something like that? So, no, I don't know that we can say that this is true everywhere. At best, we could say it's locally true, except for the counterexample, which we're going to ignore because reasons.
For centuries, scientists have been discussing and studying where did our universe come from? And for a while, by the secular community, it was assumed that the universe was infinite or...
Apologists love to make this claim without ever showing that this is true. Who did this and when? Is this true? I know they like to say it as if it is true, but I don't know. I just doubt it automatically at this point. I don't know. I'm pressing F to doubt. Don't know why I'm pressing the F key when that salutes. But at any rate, this is just something said. But yeah, okay, in the past, people believed this and then they changed their mind. But not just because they felt like it, but because there was evidence. Yeah, evidence. That would be nice. But they love to bring up the past as if that it's like, yeah, science progressed. And who cares?
Eternal. That it has always existed all the time. Is there a freaking fly in here? Oh my gosh, there's a freaking wasp.
You're editing a video. It's one thing if I screw up. I'm live. You're editing a video. What is going on?
I don't know what to do. Hopefully I don't die. So for
From a wasp?
centuries, secular scientists kind of came to the conclusion that the universe has always just been infinite. That the universe...
And I love that it's secular scientists that did this. The secular scientists came to that conclusion. Only the non-secular scientists came to a different conclusion as what's implied by this. Who are these secular scientists? Don't know. Who were the non-secular scientists? Don't know. How do we know any of this is true? He said it was. So, I mean,
has just always existed and always will exist. One of the most notable non-Christian scientists that studied this and built a theory for this is someone that you've maybe heard of by the name of Albert Einstein. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, there was a starting point in the universe.
Is that really what Einstein's relativity states? Are you sure about that? Because, I mean, you're saying all this stuff as if you understand it really well. You haven't demonstrated that you really do understand it. So I'm sure that you're going to provide us with... Oh, wait. I already know you didn't provide us with ample documentation in your description. But I'm sure that you're going to show on screen tons of things that prove that this is true, right?
And there's not much debate to be had about it. Now, for a lot of you watching, maybe...
Oh, okay. There's not much debate to be had about it. Well, never mind then.
Some atheists watching you may be thinking, okay, so what? Yeah, Einstein was an intelligent guy. Maybe he got this wrong. Or maybe you do believe in the origins of the universe, and you're asking, what does that do for Christianity?
Again with the thing. Man,
I don't know where the wasp went.
Edit out your video!
Now, this discovery is deeply significant because, like I said before, according to the law of causality, this is how we do all science. And so if we've found that the universe had an origin, had a beginning at some point, that means somewhere out there, there's a cause for the universe. Now,
Of course, this is the compositional fallacy, or the parts in the whole fallacy, where you assume that the parts of the thing and the way that those work is going to be the way that the whole thing works. But if there is a law of causality, then that would continue on indefinitely. There would never be a thing that caused everything else, because that would then break the law. If everything needs a cause, then everything needs a cause. Everything, not just most things or almost all the things except for one. If the law is that everything needs a cause, then that's what the law is. Do you understand? Like, you can't have it both ways. But since you made up this law, which I don't think is a real actual law, you can play with it and be, oh yes, the universe had a cause. Cool beans, bro. Prove that it's actually true, and also prove that that means it was a carpenter that died and came back in 2.5 to 3 days, depending on how you measure it. Let's see you do all that.
Maybe you're a skeptic and you're not totally convinced by Einstein, and that's okay. There's other examples too. How about a man by the name of Edwin Hubble? In 1927, as Hubble was using his infamous telescope, he began to observe that the galaxies in the observable universe that he was looking at were moving. But they weren't just moving, they were moving away from...
Yeah, the redshift. We know all this. It's the same script every time. Just...
from us. Hubble had just made the fascinating discovery that the universe was in fact expanding. If the universe was expanding and still is expanding in 2025, it probably had to expand or start from somewhere, right? In other words, this information that we have demands a cause.
Nope. It really doesn't. Not at all. It doesn't demand anything. So the singularity that we think is a thing, maybe, that you clearly know so much about without citing any actual science. I mean, you can name the names, but you haven't demonstrated an understanding of the science beyond what I know, and I know that you're wrong, so that's not good. So the singularity, okay, that's what we've got. And that's it. We can't go to when the singularity isn't, because that's not what Big Bang cosmology talks about. We can only go to this tiny dot that may or may not have a cause. We don't know. And I would challenge you to present 5 different peer-reviewed scientific publications, legitimate publications, not from creationist websites, that say that the singularity requires a cause. At least 5. I don't even think you'll do 1, to be honest. But I'd love to challenge him to do 5, because the hell with it. Make it 8. Why not? Let's just see how robust this is in science. Because if it's so clear and obvious to you, a layman, then it should be settled science. And yet, cosmologists have again and again said, no, the Big Bang doesn't say that there's a cause. In fact, it doesn't say there's a beginning either. And although you'll find this on websites, sadly, the websites themselves are usually watered down for the public. And I don't think that we're doing ourselves any favors by doing that, but I don't run these websites. And I have reached out to them and said, hey, look, you need to change this, but they're going to, who am I? So anyways, you're wrong, and I challenge you to prove yourself right. That'd be nice.
Right? What's actually really funny is that Einstein went to the Hubble telescope and looked through it himself, and like I mentioned before, was not thrilled by the discovery he found. He didn't want to find that the universe had an origin.
How do do you know what Einstein did or didn't want to find? Where do you get that information from? Now, he does correct himself in the description, saying that he made a mistake. The Hubble telescope wasn't invented until 1900s, and then Einstein later visited and looked through, and yeah, so he kind of got it wrong, but at least he corrected himself, at least to that extent. He didn't correct the rest of this stuff, which is all completely wrong, but whatever. At least he got that right.
He wanted to find that it was infinite. Now, I'm breezing through this information fast. If you want an in-depth study on these concepts, specifically the cosmological argument and tons others, this book right here has changed my life. This is...
And that's the problem, buddy. I got to break it to you again, and I've said it before. That book is garbage. Frank Turk is a liar and a con man. He's been rebutted numerous times by philosophers, scientists, atheists, etc. He's a con man. He doesn't know science. He's not a cosmologist. He's not a scientist. Everything he says in that book is wrong. And yeah, it changed your life for the worse. Read other books. Okay? But since you mentioned a book, that changed your life, I have to mention this book that changed my life. This is called The Lobsterist, and it's available for free on my YouTube About section thingy. And if you didn't want to read it, you can also listen to Captive Desk read it to you. This book has transformed my life, and nobody has even tried to debunk this book here. So I challenged Tabor via Apologetics to debunk The Lobsterist, and unless he does, then his God isn't real. All right, okay. All right, let's see him do that. Anyways, oh wait, what happened? Oh, we lost this. Oh, okay, here we go.
It's called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, set out to essentially say that it takes more faith to...
Yeah. You don't like faith. Faith is bad. So therefore, having the least amount of faith possible would be good, which would make us a skeptic and not a believer. Frank Turk's an idiot. And by quoting him, then you become an idiot unknowingly. But yeah, I don't care. All right. So yeah, what else? So you book that nobody should care about. What else? All right.
Apologetics, if these sorts of things that I'm sharing with you boost your faith, make you feel more confident in your faith, $17.
Yeah. Now that's the interesting thing is about faith. You need a boost in it. Isn't that interesting? You need to renew your faith. You need to boost up your faith. Man, that sounds fragile. There really isn't anything like that for the skeptic or non-believer as far as I can tell. I don't hear atheists saying, man, I had to work on my atheism today. I really just need a boost to make sure that I'm on the right path of atheism, I just don't see that in the atheist community. You might think, oh yeah, well, yeah, you're all smug and so sure of your position. You go, oh yeah, there's no God. It's so easy to say that. It's easy to not believe. Well, it is easy to not believe, but we are the ones that say, I don't know. I'm not sure about this. I question this. I'm looking at that. I don't know. I'm wanting to understand this. They're the ones that do the research. In fact, atheists, when polled and when surveyed, when asked, tend to know more about the Bible than the believers do. Why would that be? Well, because they actually read it. They actually studied it. They know the history. They know where it came from. They know that we don't know who wrote it. They know where and when, and they know stuff about it that you would never, ever learn as a Christian. Because there's knowledge that your pastor doesn't know. There's knowledge that you don't know and no one's going to tell you, because the truth about the Bible ruins the fiction of the Bible. The atheists are very curious people, I'd say, broadly speaking, from all the atheists I've encountered. But none of us need a booster to our faith because we don't have faith. We're happy to be proven wrong. We would be the happiest of happy if we could actually find evidence of God. That would be great. But there isn't any. Not even a little. There's no empirical evidence. There's no repeatable test. And there doesn't appear to be a sound argument. And certainly the Kalam and the cosmological arguments are not sound, although they might be constructed as valid. He has spent several minutes here not even covering the argument itself. Wow. So there's zero chance that he's going to be able to cover the argument and the objections to it within how many minutes he's got here? Is that 6 minutes? He's got about 3 minutes left. There's no way he can do that. It's impossible. So I don't think that I need to spend more time on this because I was just going to wind up restating what I've stated other places about the Kalam and the cosmological argument. They don't work. We don't know if there is or isn't a cause to the universe, and we certainly don't know that that cause is your version of God, let alone any version of any God at all. Your argument is broken, and it will stay broken until you update it. But you and other apologists absolutely continuously refuse to do so. I don't know why. You keep having bad arguments, and you keep not listening to the atheists, and even Christians and Catholics and whatever tell you that your arguments don't work. You keep using the same ones anyways. Weird. Anyways, I'm going to keep telling you to learn informal logic in hopes that eventually you will. And until next time, stay skeptical, and after that, remain skeptical. And if you really want me to do more of his video, I guess you can ask me. Maybe I will. But I'm done.